and welcome to our special report tonight. We're not here just to cheer all those new toll roads and high-speed railway popping up everywhere. No, tonight we're diving into something much deeper. A real question that at the heart of how countries like ours fit in the world in 2025. After 80 years of being independent, is Indonesia really stepping out of the shadows of the global economic edges? Or are we accidentally building faster, more fancier, high-tech version of the old colonial setup? That's the big thing we're unpacking over the next 10 minutes.
Spot on. Think of Indonesian big push on cities and infrastructure as a live debate between two classic ideas in global economics. On one hand, you've got Walt Rostow modernization theory from back in the day. On the other, Andre Gunter Frank dependency theory, specifically his famous idea on development of underdevelopment. These two have been clashing for decades, and right now Indonesia is exactly where the rubber meets the road. We'll let the facts and numbers do talking to see which one rings the truer.
Alright, let's kick off with the upbeat start. The story you hear from government speeches, Asian Development Bank, and all those glossy investor pitches is all about progress you can see and touch, like concrete, steel, and things that moving forward without stopping. Ever since President Jokowi started in 2014, we've added over 2,500 kilometers of fresh new toll roads. That's more than Malaysia and Thailand built combined during the same period. Jakarta finally has a real metro that works. There's that 142 kilometers high-speed railway zipping from Jakarta and Bandung. Four big new deep sea ports are coming online as we speak, and out in Kalimantan, we're literally creating a whole new capital city, Nusantara City, right out of the forest. If you're just looking at the Chinese skyline or all those construction cranes dancing in the sky, it really feels like Indonesia is blasting off into the future.
And honestly, they line up perfectly with what Walt Rostow laid on his 1960 book, The Stage of Economic Growth. And it's still go to read in a lot of international relations classes. Rostow said, every country that gets ahead goes through this clear step, almost like levels in a game. Stage 1, a traditional farming society. That was Indonesia around 1945. Stage 2, getting ready for lift-off, pumping money into transport, power, and city basics. Stage 3, the actual takeoff, where you pour a huge amount of cash into a big physical stuff like roads and ports. Rostow straight up argued, no nation hits real, sustains growth without first laying down that foundation in infrastructure. So, when you imagine flying over the Trans-Java toll road at night, seeing those glowing lanes stretch for hundreds of kilometers, it's almost like you can hear Rostow's voice from the past saying, see, Indonesia nailing it.
In the simple terms, yeah, we're turning into a country of city dwellers super fast. But we're not getting richer anywhere near as quick as our neighbors. We've got the best bustling cities, endless traffic, and the fancy mall. But where are the top-notch factories, the innovation lab, the homegrown companies that can go toe-to-toe with the world and actually took the world inside the Indonesia itself?
This is straight out of Frank's playbook. What experts now call urbanization without enough industrialization. You saw the same pattern in Latin America in 70s, Africa in 90s, and now it's hitting Southeast Asia hard in 2020s. Frank's core point was brutal and still free through the edge of the war on poor because they stuck in the past or traditional. Because they are poor, the whole capitalist setup needs them that way to keep pumping out the cheap raw goods and cheap labor for the rich centers. And guess what? The fancier your roads and ports get, the smoother and faster that exploitation runs. It is modernizing just to make the old inequalities work even better.
City growth stats seems to back it up too. Here in 2025, 58% of Indonesians are already living in urban areas. Government says by 2045 that golden Indonesia goalpost will hit 70%. That's the exact same kind of shift you saw in Britain way back in the 1800s, the US in the 1900s, and it's same forward like South Korea in the 70s and 80s. And makes you think, hey, maybe history really does give her back and we're up for the next big league.
But hold up, this is exactly where Andre Ganger Frank and his dependency idea jump in and say, whoa, not so quick. Frank's big concept from 1966, the development of underdevelopment, completely flips Ross' sunny view on its head. Instead of seeing poorer countries as just lagging behind and needing to catch up with roads and factories, Frank argued that global capitalist system actually create and keep underdeveloped life. He said the rich poor country don't help the edge. They exploit them, turning them into permanent supplier of cheap raw material, while the real value is extracted and kept elsewhere. And here's the killer stat that show Frank might be onto something big. For every 1% jump in people moving to cities, China GDP per person shoot up about 10%, Vietnam by 8%, but Indonesia just 4%. That 4% has barely moved in years, according to World Bank.
Let's also look at what our new stuff is really doing. Hop on the Trans-Sumatera Highway, you might see truck after truck hauling coal or palm oil straight to those brand new export docks. Right, the Jakarta-Bandung high-speed railway train its rate hits 250 km per hour, but mostly it's for tourists and business folks, not for legging up industries for Indonesia. Those nickel industrial park in Sulawesi, yeah, sure, they're new and shiny, but Chinese firm run most of them. All this infrastructure shines at shipping our new resources out of quick. But it's not so great at building our own high-value industries that could rival places like Shenzhen, Hanna, or Bangalore.
So now the touchy part. Who's actually footing the bills of all this? From 2020 to 2025, 42 to 48% of the cash for our Key Nation project came from overseas loans. Bonds sold in places like London or Singapore, or government papers snapped up by big global money manager. The finance ministry keep repeating, hey, our debt to GDP is under 40%, totally safe. That's true on the surface, but that's only the half of the story.
The flip side is the debt payments, the chunk of our yearly budget that disappears just on interest and repayments. Right now, that's 18 to 22% of the whole nation's spend year after year. We're talking hundreds of trillions of rupiah that can't go to better school, villages, health centers, research for our scientists, or help local businesses to gear up and compete globally. Instead, it's cash flowing straight out of Indonesia to lenders in New York, Tokyo, or London.
So Frank nailed it, this exact mechanism in his theory. It's not about inviting progress, it's about how the core keeps the periphery hooked. So you chase this loan to build flashy things, then you end up tweaking your rules to please them. Low taxes for jet buses, loose environmental checks, cheap wages to stay competitive. Bit by bit, your country's plans aren't really yours anymore. They are shaped by what the big global player want.
The old 1930s map of Dutch colonial railways in what was the East Indies many centuries ago, and slapped it next to our 2025 red toll road layout. That's the past are scarily similar. These swap trains for trucks, all steel for modern engines. We've had independence, we've had reform, we've had other things, but the basic map of pulling resources out hasn't budget. It's just getting 21st century upgrade.
So here's Indonesia's top spot in 2025. We're modernizing like crazy on the surface, but it might be tying us even tighter to a lower spot in the world economy. Speaking of the order, we've shown we can slap up top-tier infrastructure quite quicker than most. What we haven't shown is whether it's truly building our own strong, fair economy, or it just polishing our own goal as to go to spot for raw stuff and cheap work.
Let's keep it real tonight. Indonesia proven it can throw up amazing infrastructure in record time, but we haven't proven yet if it's making balanced, self-reliant economy that puts us in charge, or if it's just pushing us our own spot as the world's handy raw material depot.
In all of modern history, only a few places have jumped from the edge to the center. Japan, after their big 1868 change, South Korea in the tough 60s to 80s days, China kicking off in the 90s. Every time it took hard noses, government plans for industry, pouring money into education and tech, and get the guts to push back on foreign lenders when it counted.
That's the true test for Indonesia heading up to 2045. Do we dig deeper for that kind of backbone, or does golden Indonesia end up meaning nicer roads, bigger buildings, and false feeling more around than before?
Okay, so that's what we are leaving you to chew out tonight. Thanks for coming in. So good night.
That's all from us. Thank you very much.